Well, she doesn't have headphones on, so that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Testing, testing. I don't know if that's any better.
I think you sound good. In the meantime, we are live now, so
Okay.
just FYI. Full
Okay.
disclosure.
Don't share my social security number. Got
That's
it.
right. That's right.
Not again.
So, welcome everybody out there in YouTube land. We are still pre-partying, but we are here for an awesome show. Amel, did you get a chance to check the doc? I know you're flying in hot, as I like to say.
I'm hot off the presses.
Yes.
I have it open
Okay.
and I am
Do you
reading
have anything
it.
to add or remove? As always, it's loosey-goosey. If we don't make
Yeah.
it even to the segment 3, then we don't make it to the segment 3.
Yeah.
But if you have a cool website that's like weird or interesting or useful for that, would be sweet.
Oh, interesting.
And of course, you have probably a good 40 minutes to think of one.
Yeah. I feel like I've run into some fun ones recently. I will think about it.
Sweet. Cool. I'm going to put out a tweet. Put out a message in our Slack. I am hearing some buzz again, but I'm wondering if it's like computer fans.
Is it me?
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Everybody
don't
take
hear
a-
it anymore. Did
I'll
you
go
just mute
get-
Amelia?
Everybody
Yeah, I
take a
can
turn
run and get
muting.
headphones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Should I do the local recording as well, Jared, as a
Yeah,
backup?
go ahead. It's not going to hurt anything.
And my mic is sounding okay.
You do sound good. Yeah,
I sound good.
you do. Less echo
Alrighty.
than normal. Maybe that's the echo cancellation going on.
Yeah, or
There's
maybe
definitely
it's 'cause
someone's buzzing.
someone's buzzing.
Fuzzy wuzzy.
It should be on the
Jared-
soundboard.
My computer's on fire right now, so it might be me.
Your fans.
Yeah, my fans.
Your
are just-
your video did get a little fuzzy too.
me or Amel's.
You.
That's my preferred filter. Just trying to. This is what it's working with here. You know, it's doing a lot of processing just to make me
Testing,
presentable.
testing. Okay, I'm recording in the background.
Cool.
Amelia, is this your first show?
It is.
Seems like it. It's so exciting. I feel so honored. Divya and Nick and Jared were here for my first show. I had been on the show several times before that as a guest, but like
Yeah.
it was really, it was a fun show.
And Amelia was on the show a year and a half ago as a guest with Emma and
So
I,
long.
talking D3 and cool visualizations around State of JS or State of CSS. Which one of those? I can't remember. Where she did
I
the
remember
charting.
that show now.
Yeah, the chart for that.
Yeah.
And then her cool waterfall CSS web page that she made. So she's been on, but it's been a long time. She thought it was a couple months ago, but time flies when you're
In quarantine.
in quarantine. Yeah, actually, it doesn't fly. I don't know how. It kind of goes. It's like the fastest and slowest year ever
Yeah.
at the same time. I'm putting out a message and I'm trying to think about what to say. So, hence the delay. Talk amongst yourselves. Very talkative, guys.
Oh, sorry.
You know we're gonna have a show where we all have to talk here in a second. So
I know. I
Even
was
if
just
it's
waiting
a
for
show.
Amelia to adjust her headphones.
it behoove you to warm up your
Ow.
vocal cords. And Amel, I did put in the chat that we are introducing a brand new segment, and I'm hoping that maybe we get you to sing something for us.
OMG. You want me to
Like-
sing Linkapalooza? I don't even know how to say that word.
Don't ruin it. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. This is starting to feel like work, Jared. It sounds like we need to renegotiate some terms.
I thought you loved singing. And to get an opportunity
Yeah.
to sing.
Yeah. When love becomes work, there should be money involved.
It's
Just
true.
kidding.
All right, so the Slack message is out. Now I'm just going to do the old Twitter. And then we'll start the theme song.
Is Amal gonna sing the theme song too?
Oh boy,
Hey,
this is gonna
we don't
be
have
this is gonna be rough, y'all.
we don't have that kind of budget. She charges big bucks every 15 seconds of vocal cords. Plus
Hefty
royalties.
fee.
Yeah. Pay ML in perpetuity. Oh man, my computer's just like, I'm trying to load Twitter, but I'm also streaming and recording and
Yeah,
I'm
you're
waiting
you're
for-
getting fuzzy.
Yeah.
Your camera's getting.
yeah. I'm waiting for the next release of some new Apple hardware. I thought it was gonna happen at the beginning of the summer at WWDC because my laptop is a dog at this point, a dead dog. But they didn't do it, so now I'm just like, just surviving slowly.
I'm on this M1 Mac Mini and it is solid. I've never heard the fans.
Oh,
I keep hearing that.
I still
I'm
hear
not done.
fuzz, by the way. I don't know. It feels like there's
yeah, someone's fuzzing.
fuzz.
It still says that it's processing Amelia.
Yeah, Amelia, it feels
Did-
like maybe I don't know.
Did you leave and come back and say, I'm wearing headphones now?
Yeah. That's a good call. We're back.
All right. Ooh, listen in the background even without YouTube Premium. Nice, Chris. What's your workaround there? I think you just leave it on an open tab and go somewhere else. That's what I would do. That's my workaround. But if you're on a phone, you can't do that, right? This is the complaint with YouTube. We've been asked to also stream on Twitch, which we could
You
do.
know,
Twitch
technically
could be
now.
fun. Twitch would actually be really fun.
Picture in picture actually works on like an iPad in Twitch.
Ah, that's cool. YouTube, doesn't do
YouTube, for
picture-in-picture.
some reason, they won't do it.
Oh yeah, what's up with that? I was just do it in the console.
They want
Yeah.
you to upgrade.
Oh, by the way, Jared, my my website is going to be a throwback reference. I hope that doesn't break any rules. But I
No.
recently stumbled onto it again because
There you
of
go.
something that I will link to as well.
Okay. Totally works. All right, I think we're good to go. I still hear the fuzz, but I'm not sure if we're going to get rid of it. I'm going to grab my timer, which is over there on the desk.
Is there like, do we aim for like an hour or 30 or 40 or 50?
Okay.
15 to 20 minute segments is what we try and do,
Cool.
with little breaks in between if we need them.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I should give you the rundown. It's been a long time. Did you just give her everything? Pretty much that's it.
That's all I said.
That's the gist. It's conversational. So, hop in. And I'll be the MC for this episode, so I'm kind of in charge of making sure that everyone's involved, and I'll do the intros and everything. That's it. I mean, I guess you've been a guest, but you've never been just a panelist. So it's a lot like being a guest only. Instead of directly asking you all the questions, I'll kind of ask them openly. Feel free to navigate the conversation like you would. Like, hey, Amel, why don't you start? Or, that's all cool. We don't have to act like we're very formal and all that.
Cool.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. It's been a long time coming. There it is. It is our favorite time of the week. It is JS Party Time. I'm Jared, your internet friend, and I'm joined by 3 of my internet friends, including a brand new friend. Let's introduce her first. Amelia Wattenberger, welcome to JS Party.
Yeah, thanks. So excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. And Nick Nisi is also here. What's up, Nick?
Hoi hoi.
Ahoy, hoy, back at ya. We also have another Emil, but it's not Amelia, it's Amel.
Emil. Oh
Yeah,
no.
I can now trick you
Yet
guys.
another, name variation butchering, but
Right.
it's all good.
This is great because I can pull the old bait and switch. Why don't you answer that one, Amelia?
Oh, look at you, tricky,
Oh,
tricky.
Amel Hussein
I'm.
is here. What's up, Amel?
Oh, hi everybody. Happy to be here.
Always happy to have you. Now, we want to formally introduce Amelia. She has been on the show before, but now she's here to stay as a regular panelist. So we're excited. We're going to get to know her just a little bit. But first, I wanted to make a big announcement because I want everybody to get excited about this. I'm excited about this. If you've been listening to the show and you've been hearing our intros and outros, I've been teasing up our next Front End Feud episode in hopes that we get that survey filled out by enough people that we can actually do the episode. But I'm happy to announce that we have it all locked in at this point. And August 19th, a very special episode of Front End Feud. It is a podcast super collab with some of our favorite web dev podcasts. So we have Shop Talk Show versus Syntax live August 19th with myself hosting. We're also going to sprinkle in some JS Party Animals onto those teams. Amelia will be joining Chris Coyer and Dave Rupert on Team Shop Talk. And Divya will be joining Wes Boss and Scott Tolinsky on Team Syntax. So look forward for that. We do have a YouTube event already in the system. So if you want to go to that YouTube page and click on the subscribe or whatever the button is, get the announcement when this thing goes live. You'll definitely want to participate in that one live. It's going to be lots of fun. And I'll include the link to the live stream in the chat as well as in our show notes. So a very special edition of Front End Feud. We still would like more people to take that survey. So if you haven't yet, help us out by being part of the listeners surveyed at jsparty.fm/ff, like Front End Feud. And of course, one survey participator will get a free JS Party t-shirt. We have to get to at least 100. Otherwise, it's not a good sample size, y'all, and it just breaks everything. So fill out the survey. But Amelia, don't go fill it out because you have to be on the show, and we wouldn't want you having the questions beforehand. That being
Do
said,
go
Amelia,
fill it out.
what's that?
Do go fill it out with questions I know the answers to.
Well, you might be able to do that. You definitely give Team Shop Talk the upper hand. But who do y'all think is gonna actually pull out victorious? I mean, we have a couple weeks to prepare. Who's your betting on, Nick? Syntax or Shop Talk?
Well, I listened to both of those shows, and I'm going to say that if the questions, I haven't looked at the questions, but if they are centered around Svelte, then Team Syntax all the way. If not, if they're centered more around, I don't know, anything but
jQuery.
Svelte. I was going to say WordPress, but I don't want that to come off as like mean.
Right. All right. So I wrote the questions, but I don't remember what they are, so I can't give you any insights. Amel, what do you think? Chris Coyer, Dave Rupert versus Wes Boss, Scott Tolinsky in Front End Feud. You've played Front End Feud, so you know how it goes down. Who's got the upper hand?
You know, Jared, I think much like life, this is going to be a rigged game. So I think you need to play to Jared. You know, Jared made the questions. You need to put
That's
yourself in
true.
Jared's shoes, and you need to have like a what would Jared do moment, you know? So I would say that would be my advice to the to the teams, and I don't know. It could be anybody's game. Just depends on how well they're willing to get into your head, you know.
That's right.
So-
I like
the
that.
real winner is going to be Jared if any team scores.
Basically, yeah.
Well,
you
I
know,
do have a
so-
powerful mind, so
Yes, we've acknowledged that, and yes, immortalized it. You know, thank you for that. You know, he actually like literally grabbed that soundbite and put it on Twitter. I was like, wow, Jared, you know, like, wow. But you know, hey,
it's the first time I've had a compliment for a long time. So you gotta hold tight to it.
yeah,
All
take
right,
what you
enough
can
about
get.
me, but I do agree. I think if either of those two teams want a good chance at winning, they'll probably have to kiss up to me over the next few weeks in order to have a chance at the rigged game. But enough about me. Let's talk about Amelia. So you're here to stay. You're going to be a regular panelist. We've had you on the show before. If you've been listening for a long time, you probably remember her on episode 113, which was over a year ago now. She joined Emma and I to talk about D3, to talk about the state of CSS or JS chart that you design. You do a lot of visualizations. You do a lot of stuff. Tell us about yourself, Amelia, where you're coming from, where you work, all the goodies.
Yeah, I think this is actually going to be different than the last time I was on here and said what I do and for who. I am Amelia. I live in DC, which I also might not have the last time I was on. I moved from upstate New York right before the pandemic, so I don't know DC very well, but hopefully that will change soon. I've been a front-end developer at small startups, so I kind of do a whole range of things. Sometimes I dabble in design, but it's mostly web development, and I really enjoy making data visualizations. So that's kind of a niche that I really enjoy. Oh, and right now I'm working for GitHub. It's kind of like we're rebranding as the Innovation Lab, and so I work on a really small team. There's like 2 teams within Innovation Lab, and we basically are focused on what is the future of developer experience, and we get to do like prototypes and experiments to kind of try out different things that we think might be cool to help developers, make their lives easier.
Nice. So we should get you talking with Chris Hiller, who's doing R&D at Sauce Labs, and a lot of his stuff is very much prototypes and trying out new ideas. It sounds like you have a pretty fun job there.
Yeah, I've loved it so far. I've been there about five months now.
Awesome. Anything you can talk about, or is it all hush-hush and pre-launch? And
That's a really good question, honestly. I'm still trying to figure that out.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
I was like, yeah, go
You
ahead.
can always claim forgiveness, there's ask for permission. You can ask for permission later, ask for forgiveness
true.
now. Just kidding. No, we don't want to get you in trouble. But no, that does sound like a really cool job. And I have to say, and I told this to Chris as well, like when he shared the news about his new role, like developers are really hard customers. And it was always like a personal goal of mine to be a tool maker for a little while. I think I kind of got a little bit of that taste when I was working at NPM, but it's an honor to be developing for developers because you're upstream from people who are upstream from everyone else, and so there's kind of like a high level of scrutiny on your work, but and a high kind of caliber and demand for excellence. So I think that pressure is fun, but it can be really challenging too. So it's hard to make everybody happy. We're still arguing over tabs versus spaces, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Because,
Go ahead.
oh, Nick just shared his .files repo with me the other day because we've been toying around with NeoVim, or I have. He's been using it for a while, and he was showing me some stuff he's doing. And it took every ounce of control in me not to open up a pull request and change his tab stops in his Vim config to 2 spaces, which is the actual correct way of doing it. I didn't do it, though, which shows I'm maturing as a human.
You're a better man than me.
Well, we know that because I've used 2 spaces, which is what...
Yeah, for the past 6 months, I've actually only been working on some really intense research around if 2 spaces is better than 4 spaces, and the scientific conclusion is that 2 spaces is better.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Dang it.
Not
No.
true at all.
I was
I'm
really
on
hoping
that
you were going to
page.
pull that paper out and show it to us.
I was like, wait a second, is this written down somewhere? Like, this is fantastic. There's some actual
I'm just
binary
gonna edit out-
evidence.
Yeah.
Well,
I plan
yeah,
on
I
editing out
mean-
the part where she says I'm just kidding and just post it.
Oh.
Because now we have definitive.
Sabotage. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
At this point, as long as you have a prettier RC set up to convert whatever I'm writing to whatever you want it to be, then I don't care.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I wish Prettier could just be extended to more things, because I really do think like there's things that are just really preferences. There's so many ways to skin a cat. for any particular thing when you're writing software. And if we could just kind of really clearly differentiate like preference versus like functionality, and kind of make that clear. Teams just need to align, and once you align, you're not arguing over pull requests, So if we could just kind of like codify those conventions like more strongly than even just linting rules, that would be really fantastic. But
You mean like beyond style guides? You mean like
yeah, I mean like fully enforcing conventions like across
architecture?
the board. Like file locations, naming of files, function ordering, function names, just kind of like more broadly putting
So-
a gamut on stuff.
I already dislike how many ESLint rules yell at me, and you're
Right.
talking about adding even more.
Yeah.
You know what? I like looking at code bases where I don't know who wrote the code.
So you don't know
So-
who to
Yeah.
yell at.
Yes, I like it when you can look at different files and it feels like one story, but hey,
What if you-
everybody can dream,
Yeah. What if
So-
you go super deep and like, not allow, like, you're violating the law of Demeter or something, like we follow these rules around here, and so you can't
Right.
actually do that. Now you need some high quality static analysis, and as we talked about last episode, static analysis tools tend to fail in human ways. So that would probably end up just being a thing that annoys you, and then you eventually turn off because you're sick of those warnings. You're like, I know I'm violating the law of
Yes,
Demeter,
Link.
and I want to.
You've
Or
described
Demeter.
ESLint.
I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you might be onto something here by setting a threshold, like you can only introduce 4 new warnings in a given PR as opposed to like 100, like maybe you could pick your battles a little more, so we give you some flex, but so I think you might be onto something here, Jared, so.
So Amelia, what brought you to Washington D.C.? Was it GitHub, or was it you just wanted to move, or why did you decide to move?
I'm actually moving within the next year as well.
Okay.
These are the perks of marrying someone in academia, but hopefully
Okay.
this next move will be the last move for a very long time.
I
But
see.
we basically started in Texas, in Austin, and then we went up to upstate New York for a while. Now we're in DC, and then we will be in Berkeley, California, hopefully for good.
Well, that's a big move.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Myself, up until 6 years ago, I lived across the street from where I went to elementary school. Like I could walk my kids to the same exact park that I went to when I was in elementary school. In fact, where I, cut my chin open in 3rd grade and had someone's tooth go in my forehead in kindergarten. That kind of stuff. So you've moved quite a bit, but I haven't fallen very far from the tree myself. Amel, you've moved around quite a bit.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, much like a serial monogamist, I've been pretty stable in my moves in the sense that like I'm in one place for a really long time, but so I'm not like constantly moving around. But yeah, I was born in New York City, moved to Dubai when I was a child, lived there for like 17 years, came back for college, like in the Boston area, have lived there since, and just recently moved out of the Boston area and into the Berkshires. So I'm in this like magical place. Look it up. It's pretty magical.
Out
We
in
have
the
lots
woods.
of like, yeah, out in the woods, but we get like, world-class performing arts and just lots of music and good food and culture, and like people are really progressive. And so it's a very magical place in that way. So yeah, but Amelia, I'm really curious about your background. So you are like this kind of intersectional developer, kind of spanning a few different areas of like expertise. I'm really curious, like what are some kind of nuggets that you've kind of taken away from like being that person that's jumped around, different kind of subject matters, and having to kind of like glue them together as like the one person that's doing it all for your teams.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, what nuggets do I know? I don't really know. Well, it's funny because I was a psych major and neuro major, so I come from pretty far afield, and I feel like that actually ties in a good amount, like when I'm working, just thinking about like the user experience and like where people are coming from when they're looking at a website. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's not enough people who work in between design and development where I feel like a lot of companies are still stuck in the like you make a static mock-up and then you hand it off to a developer and the developer codes up a website and you know it like goes down the waterfall. Whereas I think there's a lot of really interesting things that could happen in the browser if the designer and the developer were closer, maybe potentially even the same person. I feel like we just kind of like had newspapers and now they're websites. But it's like, that's a big one for me is like articles of like teaching things. Like when you're reading an article, you could just be reading text, or what if we can make it interactive, or like how can we take advantage of what the web has to offer to make things more exciting, make things easier to communicate. That's not a nugget though.
That's the holy grail. No, I think you hit on some really important like points. Yeah, I agree. Like the kind of artificial constraints around our business processes and like our need to kind of categorize things, they've created artificial boundaries, and like they're kind of stagnating our creativity in terms of like what could be, you know. And so yeah, I totally agree.
What are your
It's
thoughts
powerful.
on improving that? Like for that example of getting designers and developers to work closer together and not just like throwing something over a wall to have a developer implement a design. Like, is it some kind of like intersection of tools where the design tool generates code and then that gets kind of refined by a developer, or
Yeah. You can see all these like no code tools coming out, and I think there's like two camps right now, right? There's designers and there's just developers, and I feel like the no code tools are bringing designers into development land where they can like make things interactive, make them responsive. I also think it's great when developers move more towards design land, which can be really scary because I think developers have seen a lot of websites and they know what looks good and what doesn't look good. At least this is true for me. So when you first do anything designy, you know it looks bad. You feel bad about yourself. You don't want to share it, and you just kind of have to do that enough times that there's that one time where you're like, "This isn't so bad. I am happy to share this with people," and then like you just get better and better. So I'm a big fan of like the one person who can do both things. But also just like working closely together in tools like Figma where both designers and developers are comfortable and they're kind of like moving things around.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say it's a lot to ask of someone to like master everything about being a good designer and then master everything about being a good engineer and then like go do both jobs, you know. I mean, it's definitely a lot to ask for, and I think we're really lucky to have people who are able to kind of shift between both worlds. But if we're really honest with ourselves, like I think, you know, there's still very much a T shape. You know, everybody has a T. T being like you have a breadth of things that you're good at, and then you go and kind of have your deep areas of expertise. I think it's really hard to be kind of both. You know, yeah, even folks who like identify as full stack, like myself, like it's yeah, I'm definitely, you know, I definitely move up and down the stack, but like I definitely have areas of expertise, and like I wouldn't want to be, you know, designing a full scale like back end that needs to like, you know, serve a million requests per second or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm happy to consult, you know, but like that's not my area of expertise. And so you know, but yeah, kind of on the same like token, like QA is something I think that like is being shared. I don't know, it's being kind of more absolved, like quality. Like there were like specific roles for testers, and those roles are like slowly disappearing at companies because they're pushing that ownership onto developers. And so that's another thing, like, you know, building quality software or scalable software, there's an expertise to doing that well, and you know, it's another skill that we don't like, I don't know, we're not making a lot of space for these days, intentionally. So, but
Ira Glass of NPR's This American Life has a great little quote that he talks about, which gets passed around, the taste talent gap, I think he calls it. The gap between, and Amelia, you were speaking to this with a developer who sees good design and likes good design and can recognize it when they see it and can kind of sort of do it sometimes but not always, and there's this void between your taste and your talent or skill. And he speaks, this is, he's speaking generally about creative people. We all go through this where it's like, I know what I want to produce, but I can't actually, my skill can't get me there yet, and sometimes it can take years to where you're actually producing things that satisfy your own taste. And so I think we all get there, like you're talking about, Mel, different areas of the stack. I think when you see, even if you're more skilled on the front end and you see a really nice database schema, for example, or a nice pattern in code, and you can appreciate that and say, yeah, that's good. But then when you have your blank, text area, your text screen, and you're trying to design that, then you have the gap. And so we all have areas where we have the gap. And so I think growing as a developer, I'm including full stack, like every aspect of what we do in software requires you to like be filling in those gaps in the area that you are over time. And just, you have to persevere through it because you're not going to be excellent at everything. But the more you can do more, then you can actually provide kind of a holistic solutions, the better you are.
That's one of my favorite clips, and I feel like an important part of that, maybe that's just the way I heard it, is that the gap is the painful part, but it's also really important to have, like, it's a good thing to have a gap, because you know what's good and what's not, whereas there are tons of things I don't know anything about and I have no taste in, where if I tried to learn them, I wouldn't even know if what I was producing was like a good one or a bad one. Yeah.
All right, we are here for a break, and we'll be right back to talk productivity tips and tricks. What are the odds? Nick brings up Vim, TypeScript, or something like this.
Foreshadowing.
Find out.
You know what's funny, actually, Jared? I have a really quick thing to tie this segment in with the next segment. Are you ready for it?
Let's see it. Let's hear it.
All right. So I'm a huge fan of like knowing your gaps as well, but I found that, for me, instead of kind of like finding it, like my gaps are not like they're not like, yeah, they slowly, they decelerate like your ability to work fast, but I'm able to really quickly fill that by just knowing who I can immediately reach out to fill those gaps. Like I know my experts, like if I have my like, who's good at this, who's good at that, who do I need to talk to for this, And so like the more you're able to kind of build out your like army of people, within your team or your company that are able to like help fill in your gaps, actually the quicker you're able to kind of like fill that pothole and move on,
Yeah.
So that's like a really, key part, especially working in large organizations. Like, yeah, you need to like learn how to lean on other people and, and also just like not have an ego, like ask for help, lean, ask questions, listen more.
Well, it's kind of the specialized versus generalized argument, because there's definitely a school of thought that says, why are you trying to get better at these things that you aren't good at? You're excellent at this thing. And you could take that to like the expert of expert level and be the best you can be at this particular skill. Maybe it's database design. Like, why not just be the best database designer and don't worry about these areas where you have gaps? And I definitely can respect both perspectives. I think in software, and Amel, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I think having a robust team is really the answer. And you learn, you can fill out that gap by learning from these people who are excellent at it. You're going to learn way faster from somebody who's good at this, interacting with them, than just like by dorking around on your own, in the dark for all those years. So yeah, a team definitely fills those out. But in terms of what we should do individually, getting better, do you specialize? Do you generalize? I've always been a generalist, and I think that in technology, specialization can work really well in your favor if you pick the right technologies or to specialize in, and it can really hamstring you if you make a wrong bet. So the hedge is to generalize, and if you find a specialty that's clearly going to be relevant for n years, go for it. Or maybe it'll go away and come back like COBOL. Like I specialized in COBOL. I was out of a job for a while, but now I'm just picking whatever. I'm not saying I do.
You read my mind.
Yeah, you're just
literally
picking
read
your
my mind,
salary
yeah.
at this point. You could charge whatever you want.
Pay me $1 million for this pull request. Thank you very much. You can send it to my Swiss account. Yeah.
All right, now we'll break right here. And does anybody need to step away?
Okay, good. I added my notes to the second segment, so.
Thank you. Rebecca says she thinks the designer-developer intersection role is its own T-shaped role that just doesn't exist yet. Thinking about that.
Oh, yeah, I think that's super powerful. Rebecca, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. I think we need to understand that role. Like I've seen that role marketed as like UX engineer.
Yeah.
And but like they're not really doing design or engineering in any particular like they're either kind of focused on one or the other. I still feel like so yeah, I don't know. That's a really good thought, Rebecca.
Yeah.
That's
I'm actually interviewing for a role like this where it is design and development,
Okay.
which is like a really cool role. And everyone who applies is like, I've never seen anything like this, and this is everything I want. But it's still not both doing design and development. It's like a creative developer who can take a design and like design the animations and the easing and like kind of take it and run with it. So like there is like a place in between, I think, but it's hard to get at, and there really aren't many roles like that.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Do you have a
I
name
think it's
for it?
like I think the
front
word
end.
is, I think they use the word designer, but it seems like more of a developer role, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I would not expect my designer to like be familiar with like how to write performant, animation keyframes or whatever. Like
Yeah, for
I
sure.
would not expect that. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Front end, front end developer. So. Yeah.
All right, should we kick back in and talk productivity?
Let's do it.
Oh, by the way, are you guys muting your mics in between? Like, I can't tell if I should or shouldn't. Like, and I have to click this button that says disable mic. It's not like it's like a 2-click
No,
process
just
for
leave
me
it.
to like just
Oh,
leave
really?
it. Okay.
Let it
Yeah.
roll. I don't ever mute.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. I wasn't
Because
sure
you
like if
never
I was
know
like
when I'm
typing
gonna
on my
just type up.
keyboard. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, cool.
All right. So we thought it would be fun. We've done this before, but it's probably been years to just talk productivity, because there's lots of little takeaways you can have, tips and tricks. There's things that you can take. If you just get one thing out of this segment, then I think it's a win. And so we have a big list of productivity tips and tricks. We probably won't hit them all, and they don't all have names next to them. So like who put what in? But Nick put his name in. So let's start with scripting. Parentheses,
Ooh,
Nick.
yeah.
What's this?
Yeah. So if you're looking to be productive, it might be an XKCD cartoon. It might not be, but there's some meme out there that's like, why spend 5 minutes doing this when I could spend 3 months automating it, so to save me that
Yeah.
5 minutes. And that's the general approach I take to life for the most part. It's being productive at being unproductive. But seriously, it's I think that you can get really far with just like tiny improvements to your own like development workflow. And I can think of just a couple right off the top of my mind. Since joining the company I'm at, like one thing that's like really, we have a mono repo, and it's kind of really hard to run tests in the mono repo and like target very specific tests. I don't use any fancy UI for that or anything, so I'm all command line. And I wrote just a simple bash script called T, and I can pass it in the test file, and it'll just run that test, that very specific test, but it'll also scope like code coverage down to just that one thing. So I can run that with a watcher and just see things and very like hone in, and it makes me productive overall because I'm not waiting for an entire test suite to run. I'm not thinking about how I craft, the special command to only run that. I just type T, and I actually use it like opens up FZF, which is a fuzzy file finder for the command line, and it lets me fuzzy find to the specific spec file that I want to run. So I don't even have to like think about that at all. I just start typing the name, and then it goes, and it's automatically setting up the watcher and doing everything exactly the way that I want things to work. And that's really big. And just from there, there's like really cool tools. I live in Tmux, for example. I run Vim inside of Tmux. There's the first Vim reference of the day. And I recently just learned about display pop-up in Tmux, and it is something that I can run from within my commands to just have it hit display pop-up, and it will show the command output or ask me questions in a pop-up window inside of Tmux, so I can like quickly do that. And when combining it with other things like FZF, I can have like a very complicated like UI for this command line tool that is really simple to write or to wrap a basic script around with anything, so that I can quickly do what I want to do, and then that is that's gone. It just disappears after it's done, or it lets me copy what I need and then go from there. So like an example of something I use for that is logging into our app with like various test users and all of that. I'm lazy. I strive to be lazy, and typing in the username and password for all of that for a user is complicated and takes a while. I have to like load the page and all of that. With this tool, I can just hit a key command. It'll bring up a display pop-up window in Tmux. It will let me fuzzy complete the email address of the user I want to log in as. And then I push a button, and it will make a request, log me in itself, and it will just deliver back the JWT that I can then just paste into my local storage, and off to the races I go without having to log in at all.
Oh,
So just
nice.
little tiny hacks to make me faster and not have to jump through a lot of minutia when I want to change things around, because I have to jump through a lot of minutia anyway.
Yeah. You know what you're sharing? First of all, I've never seen Nick Nisi so excited. So hallelujah, amen.
Yes.
Praise the Tmux and whatever lords, Speaking of Tmux, like I could never ever figure out like how to get out of my Tmux like session safely. I'm always paranoid about like killing it. So that's annoying. But anyways, but no, what you just described, Nick, there's actually another kind of hack that people use to do something very similar. It's actually using like your end-to-end test runner. Like, so you actually write your end-to-end tests while you're like using Cypress, for example, like while you're actually developing a new feature, you like start writing the test for it, and like your robot, and then putting that test file on watch, and being able to like continuously run that and get to that point. So by the time you're done, you have your feature, and then you have your end-to-end test. But your end test is there to kind of keep updating the UI and getting to that state. And you use a robot that moves really fast, so you're not having to click around. So that's another like hack.
I can't say that I've ever done that, but I really like the idea of it.
Yeah, it's
I should
cool.
try it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. But yeah, I think like logging in and like we've done this for our end-to-end tests where you just do the programmatic login where you get the token and you're able to kind of reuse that for different tests as well. So you should just bypass the whole login process and speed up your tests. But yeah, anyways, I'll stop talking now.
I think scripting and automation is probably the number one way that programmers feel like they have superpowers. Like even if it's you do the backwards thing, you spent hundreds of hours on this thing that takes you 30 seconds a day. there is the feeling of satisfaction that's actually irreplaceable. Like that, it's worth all that extra time, isn't it, Nick? Just because, like you said, Amel, the joy on this man's face right here and his
Oh my
voice.
god.
He
My
loves
goodness.
doing this stuff.
So
Like,
excited.
it's so cool. Anytime you have something annoying and you can, by your own skill or ingenuity or whatever it is, get rid of that thing and automate it, it just feels so good.
Yeah, I don't think we talk enough about Bash. Not that you need to use Bash for every single automation, but
Don't bash
like
on it.
it is a really good skill to put on in your tool belt because it'll serve you for life. Like much like Git, like it's something that's really foundational to operating systems and like ROSs. And so, yeah, learn it once, use it always. It'll really make your life a lot better, I promise.
I think unfortunately I use it rarely enough that it's like learn it once every few months. But
Oh,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's most people.
That's-
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it does get
horrible.
easier. Yeah.
But I think that tools like other languages that make it easier to write scripts are starting to become more prevalent. Like I think like a lot of command line tools are written in Go because you can then compile that and have that executable, and you don't have to worry about if somebody has Go on their machine to be able to run it. And you can do the same thing with JavaScript or TypeScript and Dino. You can compile that down and then pass that around, and it's a really nice and easy way to write in a more comfortable language and not worry about all of these dependencies that, or like the difficulties of running it for whoever you might be sharing that script with. But I do think that that's one thing that we kind of take for granted as like professional software developers is we just write code every day and it's just what we're accustomed to. But if you were writing scripts like this in a non-coding job and like automating pieces of your job away, it would feel like a complete superpower. And we should just remember that.
So that's funny you say that because we just had a fellow write in just published on the change blog episode all about Vim, and we've got a lot of feedback about people who use Vim and love Vim. And he is a trial lawyer, and he wrote in on that episode how he's been using Vim since the 90s, actually VI before it was Vim, since the 90s, and he uses Unix tools like the CTAG stuff and sed and awk, and it's all text-based, and he uses it in his lawyering work. And he's literally, I actually asked him back, I'm like, is there anybody else? Do you have like a club of like, what's the cross-section of lawyers who also use Unix tools? And he said it's one person, it's just him. But because he's that way, he's like he has like superpowers and he handles things that takes other people's, hours and days, especially because a lot of law is just text manipulation and collating and extraction. And so he has these skills that he's been doing for years and years, and he says he can't even count how many hours he saved over his career because he has these skills.
Yeah. Well, so I think that's Amelia, to kind of your point about like learning Bash every few months, or relearning it. Like I do think we need to build up an arsenal of commands and scripts and like this is how I did this. This is how I solved that problem. Just kind of build that for yourself so you can just keep that as your own reference log. I mean, that's why people blog. A lot of folks blog just to kind of remind themselves of how they did it, But, you don't need to make a blog, but like just, make a repo and have it be your notes and have that be something that you're able to carry with you from job to job. And it's your own arsenal of like how you did a thing. And obviously, don't steal company secrets, but like, most of the time there's nothing really secretive about how to, do, write this kind of a regex or like script this thing. Like there's usually no company secrets there, but I would highly recommend that.
Yeah. So another thing on this list of productivity tips and tricks is Pomodoro timers. Who's using Pomodoro up in here? Is that you, Amelia?
I added that,
But
but
you're not a user.
I don't currently use them. No, I do sometimes, and I used to do it a lot. And it's the concept is basically just work in sprints. So
Right.
like often you'll set a timer for 25 minutes, and basically you can't do anything except work. I don't think you actually have to work, but you can't do anything else. So you have to like sit there and like eventually you'll probably get bored enough that you'll get some work done.
You'll start
And then
working,
once, yeah, and then once the timer's done, you have like 5 or 10 minutes to do anything but work. So it just kind of like forces you to, I don't know, sit down and either work or don't work and like kind of
Yeah.
treat it as like you're not like multitasking, reading Twitter at the same time as you're coding.
It's a
Done it.
discipline
It's really
practice.
nice. Yeah, exactly. Has anyone
It kind of
else?
ties.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it kind of ties into the hot new buzzword in productivity circles lately, and that's time boxing. And it's really just planning out your day fully, and that can be in the style of Pomodoro, but just accounting for every minute of the day so that you are maximizing what you can do when you take breaks, and overall just feeling good about the work you're getting done because you plan to get it done at that time.
I've tried
Yeah.
Pomodoro years ago, and it just didn't click for me because for me it takes a while to get into a state of flow, like about 25 minutes. And then if I'm going to take a 5-minute break, I'm just like my context is gone, and then I'm back, and I got to get it back. It takes 5 or 10 minutes, and then so I like to get into a state of productivity, kind of maker schedule, manager schedule thing. Like get the maker schedule going. Give me 4 hours uninterrupted, and I'll take an hour off. I don't even care, because if I can go 3 or 4 hours without stopping at all, that's where I feel like the most productive. Because the first 10, 15, 20 minutes is wasted, like remembering what I was doing and like trying to figure it out. And then once you're rolling. So I tried Pomodoro. I didn't really click with me. I know people that use it and swear by it, and they say they're just so much more productive with this 25 on, 5 off cadence. But I do think the key is the discipline, right? It provides a structure for discipline for your work, so you're not just dorking around, which we tend to do when we don't have discipline.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jared. That's like really for me, like it's the maker's hours thing. Like if I'm implementing a task and I need to have hands-on keyboard time, like I just need my like uninterrupted time, and I'm in flow state for a few hours and I get it done, you know. But like breaking that up over multiple days, or like it's really frustrating and like not productive. So like
Yeah.
I need large time chunks to get there, and it takes me about almost an hour to really get into like a good flow state too. So slow warm up.
Yep. So while we're on flow state, I do have a blog post I wrote back in 2011. Holy cow, I'm getting old. All about how to retain your dev flow. So this is between sessions. Because what I found is that context ramp up is really kind of can be a killer. And maybe it's over the lunch hour, but usually it's day by day. So like you finish at the end of the day, you start up the next day. And there's certain little tricks you can do to jumpstart that, right? To like get your context back quicker and get you back into flow faster. And so there's 3 things that I advise in that post, which I continue to use one of these pretty much nonstop. We're talking a decade later. The first one, just leave yourself notes. Like, what was I working on? It's really, you're trying to get back to where you were. Leave yourself notes saying what you're up to. Like, that's kind of like the most obvious thing that people do. It's too much work for me. You know, like, I'm at the end of my day, I'm ready to leave. I don't want to write myself notes from the past. So I just can't really see that as a sustainable way. But it's definitely a way of getting back. The other one that I do sometimes, depending on what I'm up to, is leave failing tests. So like the last thing you do at the end of your day is to write a test that fails. Even if you have a test that's passing, maybe just make it fail real quick and then leave it there. Because then when you come back, the first thing you do is you run your test suite and you see the failing test. And for some reason that just like everything kind of rushes back in like, oh yeah, this is exactly where I was. And you kind of like jump back to that spot in your brain. But even that's too much work for me. So what I end up doing, you know, I used to do all these things, but now a decade later, all I do is this third technique, which is to leave some unstaged changes in your Git branch, whatever you're doing. Like specifically, like I'm not going to stage these. I'm not going to commit this. I'm going to leave it right here. And when I get back, I'm going to see exactly what I had edited but not committed. And for me, that's a great way to get back in the flow faster than having to start fresh and think about what I was doing yesterday. Did anybody you tried any of those techniques, or did you do anything to like get back to where you were more quickly?
That last one is this. I basically do that every day because it's just like so quick to be like, oh, okay, this is what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I do that's kind of related is there'll often be things that come up, like little tasks where I'm like, oh, I just need to get this done at the end of the day. And I'll usually, like, my instinct is to just like bang them out, like, oh, I'm gonna lose all this context, I'll just get it done, and then I'm working till like 6:30. And then what I've been trying to do is, like, if I stop having that small task to do in the morning, I find is just exactly what I need to kind of like get in the groove again and tackle the bigger tasks a little bit later.
Yeah, I do something very similar. I really like having not starting from a blank slate in the mornings. So I will try and stop whenever I can for that. And just the way my schedule works out right now, I have to go pick up my kids. So like as soon as the end of the day is here, I'm like yabba dabba doing it out like Fred Flintstone sliding down the dinosaur tail. And but I really try and actually kind of get to a stopping point a half hour earlier than that. And then I have a checklist that I try and go through of, process this inbox, go through my email and see if there's anything I need to add to my inbox. Go through the to-dos that I've accumulated throughout the day and try and flag priorities that I need to get done by tomorrow or during the day tomorrow at some point, so that when I come in, I'm not just like, what do I do? Where do I go from here? I just have like a set list of like, finish what I was working on, respond to this email, go help this person with this problem they're having, and just go from there. I don't always succeed at that, but it's something that I really try and set myself up for successfully, and it sometimes works.
Yeah. I unfortunately, I have a combination of that. Like I have this like rolling to-do list that I'm constantly looking at and checking off and moving things up and down. But I can't leave the little things for the next day because they just fall off of my important, like I have a very like my brain is very like into problems, and so like the little problems aren't always as exciting as the big ones. And I'm somebody who, because of my job, like I just have multiple things going on at any given time. So if I don't finish the thing like then and there, I will forget about it, and like I'll come back to like a week later because it's just fallen off. Like, oh great, I solved the puzzle, So I'm like notorious for having like the longest like pull request, like I have like a running, like, it's like, Amel, like this pull request looks like it's done, like, like, do you want to merge it? I'm like, oh yeah, I just need to fix this end-to-end test. But like, that's not the exciting part. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, I don't care. So I just, but that's like a me problem, so, but yeah, I only like solve, like once I've solved the puzzle, like, that's it. Like, I'm like less interested in
The mechanics of
all
it.
of the other mechanics of it. Yeah. So if I take a break and come back to it the next day, like it's not going to happen as fast. So I just need to like get it all in and just like roll it
Yeah.
over the fence, Yeah.
I can
And
relate
actually,
to that.
yeah, seriously. And the best thing that's been saving my butt a lot lately is GitHub's new auto merge feature, right? So it's like, as long as you've got all of your CIs green, you get all the pull requests, you're good to go. You just hit that button and you don't have to come back to it. So you don't have to baby your pull requests anymore. So that's been like a huge boost to my personal productivity lately, like just in being able to like get things over the fence faster, because I'm constantly context switching, and so it's just it just goes into my rotation and I would get back to it in a few days, so yeah.
Let's do
But again,
one
that's a me
more
problem.
here. Let's do one more here. I like this one quite a bit. It's not what you would normally think of, but it says knowing when to say no.
Yeah, that's a really big one for me.
That seems like a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just like general life advice of like,
Right.
especially last year during quarantine. It was just like, oh, well, I'm not leaving the house anyway. Why would I say no to literally anything? And then you're overwhelmed with like a million contract projects, or like you said yes to some side project, and then you have like 5 to do in one day, and it's Saturday, and even if you're not leaving the house, it's not restful. And I think my new rule there is, one, say no to most things, but also two, There's like an inherent cost in any project, no matter how small it is, because you have to like get your mind in the right mindset and think about everything around the problem. So that was a really big one for me to learn. Still learning.
There's a great quote. I think it's by Derek Severs. I have the book right here. Hell yeah
Yes.
or no. If
Right.
it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. And it's something that I constantly have to think about because, sometimes it can be flattering to say yes to something and you want to do that and see what opportunities might come out of it,
Yeah.
even though it might not be. But in the end, it can become too much. Like it all depends, but it's generally good advice.
I like that.
Yeah, that's one that I follow as well. And in fact, it's tough because you look at every opportunity as just like such a blessing or it could be such a cool, interesting. Like you want to do all the things, right? And so it's kind of like yes, but is it hell yes? Like, and you get to a certain point when the opportunities. I mean, some people are in a phase of life where there aren't very many opportunities. Then it's just kind of like we'll go ahead and take the ones that come to you, But as you move on and advance and find opportunity and it finds you over time, you get to a point where you get a lot of them. And then the problem changes to which ones to select and which ones not to select. And in that case, yeah, I ask myself that question all the time. Is like, do I really want, like, is this an obvious thing that got me super excited? Or I just kind of feel like it could be good, or it's kind of like an obligation, or you feel bad to say no. Like saying no reminds me of that Tommy Boy quote. Remember Tommy Boy's dad was really good at selling stuff? And have you seen that movie, Amelia, Tommy Boy?
I have not.
Chris Farley. It's a classic. You need to put that on your list. Say yes to watching that movie. See, I just assigned you homework. Welcome to Jay's Party, where I assign people to do things. No, you would definitely want to see that movie because Tommy Boy's dad was a great salesman, and one of his lines is he's like selling this rotary girder. I don't know what he's selling, and he tells the guy, he says, "Why say no when it feels so good to say yes?" And some of that's just like, and the guy, of course, buys the thing because he sells it. But
How do you
isn't that
argue
kind of
with
what it
that?
is? Like, it feels good to say yes,
Yeah.
but doesn't make it the right choice.
Jared took like I got advice from someone on this exact problem, like a technique that they use. Like when you're evaluating opportunities, you always want to say yes to everything, but a metric that you can use to weed out the ones that are maybe like less ideal for you or are that like you have to decide if you had to do this tomorrow, would you say yes? Like, you know what I mean? Would you do this tomorrow if you had to do it? Like, would you make time in your schedule to do this tomorrow? Like, is this something that you'd be excited about doing? And like, you can kind of, like that's a good way to kind of weed out if you're saying yes because you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings or because you
Right.
feel obligated,
Maybe a second part of this tip, since we all have had some experience with this, is how do you go about saying no? Like, because some of it's like, that's the social awkwardness or the anxiety about that interaction, letting somebody down or turning somebody down. I mean, it never feels good, like the quote says. But so, are there ways that you've gone about saying no that have worked better than others, or how do you do it?
I'll tell you the way that I use the most, which is by far not the best way, but it's the most effective way sometimes, and that's I ignore it until it goes away on its own.
So the ghost no. Okay. That that is, I think, in certain cold requests. I mean, we do that all the time. I get so much email for the changelog. People want to come on the shows. I'm not going to respond to every single email and say no. So I just,
Oh,
you
is that
let
why you've been
certain-
ignoring all my emails?
Yeah.
Gosh, Jared, I thought it was
Truth
like,
comes out.
I don't know how to
gosh,
break this to
now
you,
I know.
Mel, but you're
Jeez.
on the show right now. You're on a.
Damn it. Anyways, no, I'm
Anyway,
just
so in
kidding.
that case, like a cold email, you don't know the person, they're asking you for something. I'm totally fine with just not responding because there's just too many emails in life. But what if it's like a colleague or a friend, or it's not, you're not going to ghost a colleague if they ask you for something, right? You're going to have to tell them something. Amelia, what about you? How do you say no?
I've been waiting to hear answers on this. I need all the help I can get.
Okay.
out of office message saying you're in Alaska for 3 months and hoping that they forget about it by the time you're quote unquote back, you know?
Yeah.
I have a built-in
Cities,
excuse. I just say I have kids and I can't do it.
Family.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kids are
that's
a
a good
great
reason to have
excuse.
kids. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know. I also about it, and my reason is always like this isn't a priority for me, or like I don't think
Yeah.
that sounds great. Which I've tried before.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Just
it's
like
honest.
this isn't. I don't want to. Which I think like you hate when you ask someone to do something and they like lie about like, oh no, I can't do that because I'm not available, and you're like, I
Right.
didn't say when. Um,
Yeah.
It never feels good.
You're like, I have bowling league that night, and you're like, yeah, I didn't give a date yet.
Yeah, honestly, a line that I've been able to use pretty successfully so far is that like I just have too many commitments right now, and my
Yeah.
plate's really
That's
full,
true,
and I
right?
would love to. It's the truth, though. It's like
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I just can't take anything else on right now, and it's always nice to give people another option. So like if you can redirect them to someone else, like if you're being asked to do a talk or whatever, like if you just say, hey, maybe this person can help, and then just kind of like that's I think that's the most you can do. But yeah, no, you need to be protective of your time and energy,
Right.
and most of the time people are understanding. So
I do like that approach though, Amel, because it really shows that you did consider it and you put a little bit of thought into it, which is, it's not just like a canned no response in that regard. And even I think going back to maybe what you said, Amelia, like if you were brutally honest, like, no, that doesn't sound good to me, like that would probably stand out as like a significant response that they might get for something like that. And it might lead to like, collaborating or changing it to be exactly what you want. And that could be good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So I like the honesty of too busy, too many things going on. One thing that happens with that, with a persistent requester, is they will then set a reminder to ask you again in a month or 60 days. And that can be problematic. So now you got to do it again. And so at times I will say, similar to what Amelia says, but I'll say something like, this just doesn't feel like a great fit, or doesn't feel right.
That's
It
good.
just doesn't feel right.
it's
And
not
really
you,
hard.
it's
I mean,
me.
it's not really. It's not offensive. It's not saying it's a bad idea. It's not saying. What was that?
It's not you, it's me. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
It's like a breakup.
Yeah. Anyway, so it doesn't feel right. I've never gotten someone to write back and be like, "How dare you?" Or of course, maybe they're thinking that, but they're like, oh, "Okay, appreciate
Yeah.
the time."
Oh my God.
That's great because it's not like this isn't good objectively. It's like
Yeah.
it's not good for me.
It just doesn't feel
Or-
right. Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't feel like a
like
great
that.
fit.
Yeah, can I put someone on blast? Well, I'm not going to put someone, or I'll put an organization on blast.
Maybe.
There's a particular Facebook recruiter whose last email to me was literally, I kid you not, like, okay, ML, so I know we've reached out to you like 50 times. Here's hoping that number 51 will be successful. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh my God, like what part of like not responding to your emails, not like interested, do you not understand? Like so I persistence, like it can hurt you. So just don't be that person.
Yeah, so for the person who just cold emails you 5, 6, 7 times in a row without a response, I have a text expander for them, which is an all caps unsubscribe, and I just reply with that.
That's good.
'Cause, yeah, it's
Smart.
like, no, I don't want to hear from you anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Jared, I don't know if we're going to have time to get to this, but I did link, I will maybe put a link to the show notes, but for me, urgency, importance matrix has like changed my life these past few months. I've started to adopt that, and I've got some really good coaching on this from my boss, because there's so many things we can do that so many things that I want to do, and like a lot of people in engineering leadership roles have a very hard time delegating because they know they can do the work better than anyone else, or like they have a particular way that they want to implement this. And I'm talking to myself here, so, but sometimes it's like you need to really learn when to delegate and what you can delegate. And yeah, it might get done differently or slower, but it's fine, because it frees you up to do other stuff. But yeah, like knowing what you can do first, do later, eliminate, delegate, like it's been a game changer for me. So
Right on. Well, we've been having too much fun because we are way over time. We're gonna have to just delay our brand new third segment, which was either gonna be called Awesome Hrefs or Stumbled Upon or Linkapalooza, which
I
now that I
remember
say out
Stumbled
loud is
Upon.
the worst
Yeah.
name I could. But we're not going to do it. So who cares what it was going to be called? We'll save that for the next time that we do segments. This has been an awesome conversation. I really enjoyed it. All the links to all the things are in the show notes, including Amel's urgency importance matrix. So if you just got a taste of what that is and you want to dive into it, definitely click through and check that one out. One last reminder, please do take the front end feud survey so we have lots of awesome responses. Otherwise, I'll have to have Nick write a bash script that goes and takes the survey for us and just fills in fake information. And I'll do it. Don't make me do it. That's at jsparty.fm/ff. Nick, Amel, Amelia, thanks so much for hanging out with us today at JS Party. Any final words before we throw that outro song?
Welcome, Amelia.
Welcome,
I'm
Amelia.
excited to have you.
Thank
We are
you.
happy to have you.
We are representing the AM crew.
The morning people. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, that's JS Party for this week. We will talk to you next time. All right. Sorry, the time got away from me. Oh, my audio cut out for a second. I also, the chat, we're still on YouTube. The show's over. The chat is like not very visible in this, right? Did anybody see the chat that I put in that said we'll break soon?
No, and
Yeah.
I saw it,
I
like-
put in another chat later.
Yeah, and I just saw your chat. They should actually
Yeah.
like do. They have
The
a nice
Zoom
little
thing.
what do they call it? A toast, like a
Yeah.
notification when things happen. They should put the chat. Right. They should do that with the chat. Make it
Yeah.
useful. 'Cause anyways.
Honestly, I think it's just easier to just have the chat window open. Like,
I have it open and I still didn't even.
you didn't even notice.
Notice
Yeah,
it.
sorry.
Amelia's like,
Yeah. No, I mean, I put that in there and then I didn't see ML, so yeah, I should probably have it open. But I have to have the media board open too for all the time.
it's okay. You also didn't see all my emails to the change log, you know?
Stinking bug.
All my emails
Well,
to
I
change
have
log
a-
where I was like, I want to be on the show for this,
I have
for
a
that.
s-
Just kidding.
I have a saved filter that
Just joking.
just
I'm just
takes
joking.
Amel's emails and to the Mark as read
Trash.
and
Oh,
archived.
shit. Oh, God. That's actually a really good idea, though, for a filter. Mark has read an archive. I mean,
yeah.
that's smart.
That way you don't lose it,
That's
but you don't have to look at it either.
productive.
That is a
Mhm.
productivity tip. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all, y'all. We'll say goodbye to all of our live listeners. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. Omri, Thomas, Rebecca. Who else was in there?
Chris.
I always think his name is 8 because it's real 8, but it's Chris. You should change your handle to Chris. Just an idea. That way I don't have to look at it every time. We'll say goodbye to you, and we'll be back next week, same time,